Start recording. Last time we left off, we got real close and personal. Not really, but I keep waiting for more things to happen with Tawa. I'm so excited. I'm so upset my character hates her. I don't want her to hate her. I want her to love her because I love her. But anyway, let's go. Are you quite sure about that? Yes, it was a ghostly figure indeed. Upon seeing it in the moonlight, I felt as though my heart might burst right out of my chest. Kaput! Was that the sound hearts usually made when they burst? Lorena was curious. Not so very curious, however, that she could muster more than a muted In response, Lieselot pouted. Ah, but Lorena, you sound as though you do not believe me. Well, why not? Lieselot stared at Lorena, her eyes wide with passion. Sorry, I'm gonna click over to that real quick. Just making sure my streamlabs is still functioning. Okay, cool. Personally, Lorena felt it was too early in the morning for such an unchecked display of energy, but she decided to keep that to herself. Lieselot certainly seemed impassioned, but then again, Lieselot was impassioned about everything. I'm a little skeptical about the existence of ghosts. But you are English! And you come from the land of unicorns, dragons, leprechauns. I think you'll find those are Irish. Whoops! Oh, if she weren't so adorable, this comment would get her murdered. It is the same thing. It isn't, though. Never mind, never mind. Lieselot waved one hand carelessly. Lorena would have found the gesture irritating were it not coming from such a blonde-haired, blue-eyed maiden. Perhaps Lieselot didn't understand, Lorena tried to reason. She was Swiss, after all. Maybe that was why she had been giggling so with Effie the other day. She just didn't know what was appropriate and what was not. One would have thought Effie, being an English-born maiden, wouldn't encourage her so, though. Just let them be happy and gay together. Shh! How can you, of all people, doubt my story? I promise you, I am not lying. I'm not trying to accuse you of anything. I don't think you're lying, but you should see for yourself when you walk around the hallways at night. Maybe your heart will stop in your chest, too. I hope not. Lorena frowned and glanced at a nearby clock. She and Lieselot had been charged with airing the carpets and polishing the ornaments in the hallway that morning. An hour or so had passed, and now it was nearing 7:30. If we don't want to be late, we should be on our way to church. Ah, yes, I was so caught up with my chilling tale, I quite forgot. Lorena smiled, shaking her head. Honestly, what could Lieselot do without her? Well, knowing Lieselot, she'd be fine. Though Lieselot was something of a daydreamer, who often lost focus midway through her chores, she was rather popular amongst the residents of Bly. Even Miss Smith was fond of her, and Miss Smith seemed to be fond of nothing other than Estelle Wood's Practical Housekeeping Guide. It was true that what they said, if you had looks, you could coast by without any particular talent. It didn't hurt that Lieselot was always so enthusiastic and earnest, but unfailingly thoughtful too. She was the kind of girl who, if she saw a spider, would catch it in her hands and release it outside. The thought of killing the poor thing would never have crossed her mind. Right, we should be on our way. Agreed, Captain. Captain? Lorena frowned. She wasn't sure how, exactly, she made the sudden career change from maid to captain, but she supposed it didn't matter all that much. Lorena and Lieselot exited Bly through the kitchen. They wended their way through the rose gardens when they... What? When? They wended their way through the rose gardens when they were halted quite suddenly by an unexpected interloper. Pauline. Lorena knew she would see Pauline at church, but she'd hoped to delay their inevitable meeting. Alright, I'm gonna close my door. Because I don't want my family to be all like, why is she talking so weird? Because I know Pauline has that obnoxious voice I gave her. For good reason, mind you. But, you know. For whatever reason, Pauline looked rather smug. Pauline always looked smug.
Oh, Lorena, are you on your way to church?
Yes. Lorena's body drew back instinctively, as one would retract their hand from a naked flame. Shouldn't you be on your way to church too?
In a moment, dear. First, I have something I want to relay to you.
What?
Is it about the ghost? No. It's a more pressing, immediate concern. Earlier this morning, Miss Smith asked me to polish the fireplace in the drawing room. But, silly me, I quite forgot.
How did you forget?
I had matters to attend to in the gardens. They were quite important.
But, Lorena noted, Pauline didn't specify what these matters were. If Lorena was a gambling kind of girl, she would wager that these important matters in the gardens involved exchanging idle gossip about the stable hands with Isabel.
Miss Smith, not to mention Lady Leonard, will be most aggrieved if they return from church to discover the fireplace has not been seen to.
Then perhaps you should finish the task you were assigned.
Oh, I know I should, but I don't want to miss service.
And neither do I.
That's what you say, Lorena, but I doubt missing a service or two will have such an impact on your future.
And what do you mean by that?
I mean,
Pauline's smirk widened.
It's doubtful a fallen woman such as yourself could ever go to heaven, no matter how much you try to repent. You might as well give up.
I beg your pardon?
You heard what I said. My innocence is assured. I've lived a good life so far, and it'd be a shame if I went and got a black mark on my record now.
Oh yeah, you're definitely innocent. God's praising you for all your terrible attitude. So you want me to take the fall for you?
If you would be so kind, thank you very much. Now, Lottie, are you coming?
But,
if you had a job to do, you should do it. It is not Lorena's responsibility, surely. But Lorena offered to help me.
It did not seem that way to me.
Well, if you want to stay here and clean the fireplace with her, be my guest. But you'd miss out on Reverend Manor's service, too.
Marner's. I can read.
You do want to go to heaven and meet Saint Verena, don't you, Lottie?
Well, when you put it like that.
Excellent. Let's be on our way.
And on their way they went. Such a twat. As she walked off, Lieselot turned her head and mouthed a few parting words to the dumbstruck Lorena. But she should still be able to go to church. 'Cause then, when they come back and the masters are pissed off, they can be like, you know, I told Pauline to do the job, right? Like Miss Smith, she was the one who assigned her the job. So if she goes to church and they come back and it's not gone, it's not her fault. It's not Lorraine's fault. It would fall on Pauline, wouldn't it? That makes no sense to me. Because then she can go, yeah, Pauline told me she was supposed to do the job. It's not my fault. And Miss Smith would be like, yeah, I told Pauline to do the job. She didn't do it. So it would be her fault. I don't understand. I'm sorry. I don't get it. Maybe it's just... I can't wait to read this line. But like, I guess it's the way for the game to be like, look, let's have more interactions with Lorena and Tawa or something. I don't know. But I'm mad. Because that logic doesn't make sense to me. Stupid Pauline. Where'd she get off, that no-mannered, buck-toothed, horse-faced, conniving bitch? To further emphasize her point, Lorena kicked the wall with the tip of her shoe. Ow! As Lorena soon discovered, this was a rather poor idea for a couple of reasons. For one thing, kicking the wall hurt. For another, the pale yellow wallpaper now had a very unappealing blemish streaked across it. Blinking the tears away from her eyes, Lorena peered at the damage she had caused. It didn't look good. Now, how was she going to explain this to Miss Smith? She let her temper get the better of her again, just as it had done at Hartwell. Just as it had done with Arthur Pickering. Now, months later, she was still paying the price. Oh, go bugger an orphan! In Lorena's state, she wouldn't have cared if the subject of said buggery was a whole orphanage. This is ridiculous! If you were here, Pauline, I'd smash every one of your teeth in. And because it couldn't possibly get any worse than it was already, Lorena spat on the floor. It wasn't like it mattered. Nobody would see or hear her. Here. Or hear. That's weird. Every single occupant of Bly, from Lady Leonard all the way down to the stable boy, would be at church. Every single occupant save her and... Yes! My babe! Oh my, I didn't realize you had such a foul ton on you, my little Lori. Tawa. Ah! Lorena jumped as though she had been prodded with a pin. Her eyes snapped open until they were even wider than the wooden globe Miss Amy used to teach Lady Constance geography. She was so surprised by the parlor maid's presence, she quite forgot what she had said to her during their last meeting. I won't talk to you if you don't talk to me. Lorena still didn't like the older maid. She refused to like her through sheer stubbornness, but in that moment, curiosity outweighed everything else. What happened to my reading skills? What happened? Tawa, why are you here? Silly Lori, I thought you knew. I don't go to church. Yes, I have wondered about that. Doesn't Lady Leonard mind? She might, but what Lady Leonard thinks is of no concern to me. It should concern you. She's your employer, and even if you don't care about her, aren't you worried about going to hell? A truly novel idea. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. You'd cross a bridge over fire and brimstone? You're more brazen than I thought. Oh, I don't know. You could be quite brazen too, my little Lori. What do you mean? Well, I wonder. What words just emitted from your lovely, maidenly lips? Go sodomize an orphanage, was it? It was go bugger an orphanage, actually. How charming. Tawa giggled. She crossed the room with light footsteps, moving so soundlessly she could have been a ballerina. I didn't realize you had such a ton on you. You can curse like a sailor. My father was a sailor, actually. But that was besides the point. Will you promise to keep this a secret? Who? Me? Tawa gestured towards herself in disbelief. But I thought you didn't trust me, Lori. Why the sudden change of heart? It's a test. A test? If you could keep this to yourself, then maybe I can tolerate you. Only tolerate? Don't push your luck. You drive a hard bargain, but... Oh, very well. I'll take it to the grave. Do you swear? Tawa nodded solemnly, one hand on her chest. On my mother's life. A smile found its way to Lorena's lips despite herself. She didn't know why, but talking to the parlor maid, peculiar though she was, had helped lighten her spirits. Even if Tawa was a godless devil. Even if Tawa was a godless devil. I'm rather curious though, Lori. While I have no problems with being a heathen, I thought you nice Well-raised English girls cared a great deal about your faith. Oh, I do. My mother would faint if she knew I was missing Sunday service. Then why are you here, wishing for the brutalization of poor, innocent orphans and Paulines alike? The orphans might be innocent, Lorena conceded, though it really depended on which orphans you were speaking of. But Pauline is not. I couldn't believe that. I've never been fond of that woman. And what has Pauline done this time? I take it she is the culprit behind your current state of despair, Kendrillin? Well, she was supposed to polish his fireplace, but important business, or we made quotation marks with her fingers, came up and she was unable to finish her chores in time for church. So she tried to push her duties on you? That's how it went, yes. Oh my, that's truly despicable. Pauline's like that. Did you try to argue your case? I didn't have much time. She left before I could say anything, and Lorena sighed. Her shoulders slumped. I couldn't just go. I would have if I were you. See? Tawa gets it. Tawa gets it. She knows. She knows. Lorena, you take on too much. But I'm not you. No, you're not. And that's why people continue to take advantage of you. Honestly, Lori, have you learned nothing after the little talk I gave you? Well, I'm very sorry. I've been a little under the weather lately. What with all this nonsense about the ghost? There's a ghost. Ask Ada or Elise a lot. I'm not interested. Ah, I think Lottie did mention something like that to me earlier. She sounded quite excited. She's always excited. Personally, I find it rather charming. Though wide-eyed, innocent little girls like that can be a touch grating. Whenever I see her, I ponder how lovely she would look in tears. Wow, Tawa, okay. Lorena shuddered. That's too much information. Oh, jealous are we? Not at all. If it's any consolation, Lori, I think you'd look even better in tears. What kind of consolation is that? Lorena glowered, her hands clenched into fists. But what could she realistically do? Hit Tawa? She'd already scuffed the wallpaper in the parlor, so she might as well. After wanton property damage, grievous bodily harm was just a stone throws away. Look, I don't know why you're here, but if you want to gloat over my misfortune, you can forget it. I'm not in the mood. Oh dear, I fear I've given you the wrong impression. I don't want to gloat, Lori. No. No, in fact, upon hearing your impassioned cries, I found myself wanting to help, if you could believe such a thing of a wicked woman like me. How can you help exactly? I know going to church is important for you, but it isn't for me. As I have nothing to lose, I might as well polish the fireplace in your stead. Then, you don't mean... If you leave now, you may be able to make it to St. Mary's on time. You'll need to hurry, though. I believe the service starts in... Tawa glanced at the gilt clock hanging on the wall. 20 minutes? But that isn't right. You didn't do anything wrong. And neither did you. But you shouldn't need to clean up after Pauline's messes. Do you hear yourself? Do you hear yourself? You shouldn't need to clean up after Pauline's messes. Neither do you! Oh my goodness. I don't mind. It's no skin off my nose. But that's 3 buts, my little Lori, and I'm still not budging. You should go. Attend your sermon. Your fairy godmother is always here to help. Tawa winked, but shortly thereafter she frowned, pressing one finger against her lower lip. Now, was that too dramatic? I was going for dashing, but perhaps I laid it on a bit too thick. Lorena had no idea what Tawa was babbling about, but despite her better judgment, she did feel thankful. Well, if you're sure... Of course I'm sure. I don't offer my services if I'm not sure. But, Tao's eyes flashed. I'm not a cheap woman. I assumed so. I can aid you whenever you wish, but the interest can be rather steep. When I come to collect my insurance, I'll let you know. So I'm to sell my soul to the devil so I can go to church? How cruel! I'm hardly the devil, my little Lori. If you must compare me to a manifestation of evil, then I'd far prefer to be called a succubus. Oh, my word. So thirsty. And we just ended on that. What? Wait. Oh, no, she's at church. The tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, that it defileth the whole body. Lorena sat at the edge of the bench, crammed against Ada's soft side and the cold hardwood of the ancient pew. Fortunately, Lorena hadn't been late for the beginning of the service. She'd arrived in the nick of time, with less than half a minute to spare. Reverend Marner had given Lorena a long, disapproving look as she scuttled to her rightful place. The infuriated expression on Pauline's horsey face had made it all worthwhile. That harpy needed to be knocked down a few pegs. Reverend Marner's words had never felt more apt. The human tongue, if used with malicious intent, really could scorch more than any naked flame. The tongue can no man tame. It is unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Lorena glanced about the congregation curiously. As per usual, Lady Constance and Lady Leonard were sitting at the front. Lady Leonard's head was held high, like a bird of prey. Lady Constance, meanwhile, was fidgeting, winding her blonde hair about a finger over and over and over again. Why was she in such a foul state of distemper? Lorena wasn't sure, but she thought it would be prudent to keep an eye on her. She didn't want to be drawn into any of Lady Constance's childish schemes. Hey, sorry if I missed your chat earlier, but hey, AP1? Sorry if I'm reading your username wrong, but hi! Welcome to the stream. I'm sorry if you posted that like a while ago. I'm clearly immersed in the plot right now. Sorry, I need to do this in like a Therewith bless we God, even the Father, and therewith curse we men, which are made after the similitude of God. Worrying though it was, the only one Lorena felt she could rely on as of late was Tawa. This didn't mean, of course, that she and Tawa were friends. They were nowhere near. Though Tawa had helped her earlier, Lorena doubted it was because the older maid liked her. She'd simply done it because it amused her. Tawa might have been a reliable ally, but that was purely on her terms. Lorena didn't dislike her as she once had, but she couldn't imagine forming any kind of meaningful relationship with the older woman. Lies! Lies, Lorena! Relationships were awkward things, and when they started to grow, they often caused trouble. Trouble like what had happened with the Pickering family. Out of the same mouth proceedeth blessings and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not so to be. Lorena wasn't going to think about that. She didn't want to think about that. It hurt too much. Welcome to the stream. But if ye have better envying and strife in your hearts, glory not, and lie not against the truth. Lorena strained her back and tried to heed Reverend Marner's words, despite the confusion that waged war within her breast. This was no time to be thinking about Lady Constance. This was no time to be thinking about Tawa. This was certainly no time to be thinking about the Pickerings. She was here to think about the Lord. Nothing else mattered. Oh boy. Well, that was quite an intense service. As it should be. The word of the Lord is divine. Lieselot smiled brightly. Her face was completely devoid of guile. I'm so happy you were able to attend, Lorena. Me too. I was worried you wouldn't make it. Now that does raise an interesting question. How did you manage to make it here so very quickly, Lorena? I don't know. Maybe it was a miracle.
Are you sure you polished the fireplace properly, Lorena?
I did my best.
Your best, is it? Your best? Like you did your best to try to seduce the Hartwell's son during your previous place of employ?
But Pauline was unable to complete her sentence. At that moment, a rather haughty voice quite cut across her. How do I do? I pretty much was doing haughty.
Sorry, but can you chatter amongst yourselves elsewhere? You're in my way.
But the voice didn't sound very sorry at all.
Is it gonna be blonde chick? It's blonde chick! Ah!